Is up, guys? You know, all of this live streaming stuff, I know it's like started with this remote learning thing, and I find myself bouncing back and forth from locations just dependent upon uh, just the way that every day goes. It's so like sporadic and crazy. I never know. I try to stay in one place, but it's with kids and meetings and work and stuff like that, just bounce around. But um, all of this has kind of made me want to set up kind of like a permanent little streaming space and maybe get a little bit more serious with this. Um, I try to usually have a microphone set up and stuff like that, but it'd be cool to have like a set up little studio space where that was like my go-to and, come up with just a what up, who's that, Maximus? Get a serious schedule going. Anyway, future ambitions. All right, so I'm going to play with some more dynamics in C4D today. I have two spheres, two cubes set up, and I put rigid body on all of them. Now with the cubes, I set the dynamics to off, so they are static objects, so they won't fall through, outer space. So if I reset this and I hit play, I've got two spheres that gravity is effective upon and falling on top of the cubes, and you see that they just sit on top. And so I'm going to play around with some dynamics to see what we can do and test some physics out, I guess. So let's get a better look so I can see both of them here. And let's go into our cubes here. So let's say which one is, all right, so here's cube and here's cube 1. And I'm going to call this cube hard cube. And we'll call this one soft cube. Am I spelling that right? And my spheres should be fine. So let's go into my hard cube here, into its dynamics, and look at the soft body tags here. So I thought it was here. Maybe it's not here. Maybe it's in collision. Yeah. So in collision here, the bounce is set to 5%, which is the default. I mean, if you look at the sphere, and same thing, you go to dynamic body and, oh, sorry, into the tag here. The sphere tag, you will see that that's 5%. This one's 5%. This one's 5%. So it's all set to 5% bounce, and if I understand this correctly, um, the two objects that are colliding, they interact with each other, and that bounce is essentially if like an average between the two. So since both the sphere and the hard cube are, the bounce is set to 5, 5 plus 5 is 10 divided by two objects is 5. So the bounce will obviously be 5. But if I turn the bounce of this hard object up, I think that's what I want to do. That would make it harder, I think, or will it make it softer? I don't know. If I set it to 90, let's leave this one at 5 and 5. So now this is 90. The sphere is 5, so 95 divided by 2 is what? 47 and a half or something will be my bounce. Nothing happened, right? I don't see a difference. Let's do it to the sphere. Oh, maybe it's because the friction is set to 90. I don't know. Let's turn that to 90. So now the bounce on this object is 90. if I make my frames a little longer. I wonder if this will like die out. That bounce should get less and less every time, right? Yeah. Cool. Okay. So, did that make my object harder or softer is the question. I don't know. I guess it doesn't make it harder or softer, it makes it more elastic. Let's go to set this back to 5. I'm going to set this one back to 5. And let's see what happens if I drop friction to 0. Okay, so friction, that's interesting to me, because I would think that friction, this thing would at least roll off. Alright, let's turn the bounce up. So I'm turning the bounce up on the sphere. Interesting, I get no bounce. Oh, okay. So now with the friction off a little bit, it is rolling a little. Can I turn the bounce to 100? Can I turn friction to like a negative? No. What if I turn this to 0 bounce? Turn the friction off. Huh, interesting. So these both have to have bounce. Oh, look. I can turn that one up. That's cool. That would just continue to bounce and bounce and bounce. So now it doesn't look like this thing is losing any force. It looks like a continuous. It actually might be getting higher every time. I can't really tell. Alright, so what happens if I put no bounce on this hard cube, right? Would that make it hard or soft? I'm gonna guess it's gonna make it soft, because there's no spring on it, essentially. Hold on, if there's no spring, then it makes it hard, right? I don't know. It's bounce firmness. Let's put this to 100. See what happens. No friction. Is that what we just did? Yes. So let's put this to 50. Interesting. Huh. Go into my project settings. Let's take a look at my dynamics here. Okay. I mean, nothing out of the ordinary. Okay, so if my bounce is set to 100 and my friction is set to 0, let's put this to 10. I guess I don't want a lot of friction. If I want to bounce the object, I'm taking a ton of friction and, or not a ton of friction and a ton of bounce on both objects. Both objects need to be really bouncy. Okay, so I have a decent bounce. I don't know, so obviously bounce and friction on both the object and the collision object interact with each other, and so you need to adjust both of those accordingly to get the type of physics that you want. Now, over in the mass tag, also, there is a couple different things here. We could uh, change these objects to have custom masses or custom densities. And so let's do this. Oops, I deleted the wrong one. Yeah, whatever. Let's select all these, delete these. Let's go into Control D, my project settings. Let's set the gravity to 0 gravity. So there is essentially no gravity here. And let's do 2 cubes here. Oops. It's really interesting. Okay. Hopefully on the Z axis, and then how do I do this? If I make them both rigid bodies and I do maybe if I want these guys to collide, so I step up the, where's my velocity point? Is it in collision? There's something here. Where are we? Custom center? No. Alright, custom initial velocity. So I'm on the z-axis here, right? So this one I want to go, if that's positive z, that's negative z. So I want this thing to go negative 500. It always adds that extra, like 2 extra zeros. And let's see, this one, oops. Okay, all right. This one I'm going to, where was that? Collision? Here, I'm going to set this one to positive 500. Okay, so both of their masses are set to world, both densities are set to world density. All right, so let's see. They come in, they collide with each other. Let's change this cube. This density will make a custom density. And let's jack it up to 5. Cool. All right, so I think what all this means is you can override the world density to have objects, even though they look the same exact size and possibly the same mass. Obviously, they're not the same mass or the same density, right? Um, so I could make like a super tiny object. Even though this thing is tiny, I still have this mass, this custom density set to 5, which means if I reset it, the same exact thing is going to happen. or not. Huh. I thought that would be the case because the density of this object is still. Maybe I have something wrong here. Alright, so the way I understood that is obviously not the way that this is interacting now. Or maybe it's because I did density and not mass. Alright, so if this custom mass is 10, this custom mass is 10. Let's hold on, let's go back. World density is set to 1, so I'm going to switch. Oh, that's interesting. Alright, so let's go custom mass. So if that custom mass is 10, let's make it 3. Now is it going to change? Interesting. Oh wait, no, that's right. Because that one's 3 and that one's 10, right? Alright, cool. Alright, bottom line here is that by going into the mass and setting custom mass, you are now you're dealing with, I think, a deeper setting of material, right? So it's one thing to have like a material texture on an object, but in real life, if that object was, right, like now you're dealing with, say aluminum versus lead. So lead obviously has more density and more mass than aluminum. And so here you're getting into the properties of the object. So I could have, um, you know, depending on the type of material that I want here, I could have something, lead-based and something, say, aluminum-based, and have them interact more physically appropriate if I go in and do custom settings on my mass and density and stuff like that. I don't know. Oh, there is one more thing. Maybe that's where it was in pressure, drag, and lift, possibly. Bounce friction. Oh, this one, deactivation threshold. I forget what that does, but it's something like if I put in a cylinder and put it on the, is that plus X axis, and bring it up above the floor, and I could probably like bring it up even a little bit more, go here, let's zoom in, and alright, just so we could see what's happening here, let's give this, oh, I probably need a floor in here or something. Let's give them both rigid body tags and hit play. Nothing, huh? What if I bring this up? Oh, I'm on the floor. Okay, whatever, let's hit play. Dude, am I crazy? Why is this? There's a rigid body tag, right? Dynamics are on, right? Okay, call me crazy because this thing should be dropping now. What just happened? Why is it not even, like, it has no weight at all? Oh. Because I said gravity. Okay, now that my gravity's back to 0, now that should work. And let's bring it up above the floor a little. I assume this should roll. Dude, am I crazy? What is happening here? Okay, it's not letting me do anything with this cylinder. Did I hit something by accident? I hit something by accident. I must have hit. Oh my goodness. Amateur hour. You would think they would roll a little bit. What if I put a plane and brought that plane down? And maybe both need to be above the floor. Oh, is that why? Because I'd hit pause at a certain frame or something before. Right. Need a rigid body tag here. Right. Set it to a static object. Okay. This threshold velocity has something to do with if objects are rolling after it reaches that 10 centimeter threshold, it will deactivate. If I understand that correctly. But for some reason, this guy's not rolling. Well, let's try this. Let's give it some sort of initial velocity. So this is the z-axis, right? I want it to go negative z. Let's see what happens here. Okay, that sort of made more sense. That this is at 10 centimeters, since it's so low, maybe it. Well, let's do -50 on this one. So it gives it a little bit of a spin. There you go. Now it's spinning. It should stop after. It's still 200, but I don't know. I guess I have to play with these a little bit more and understand these a little bit better. Alright, so let's do this. Why don't we try to get a scene together by doing a sphere, and we're going to make this 50 and 50, and let's get a particle emitter going. Sphere goes inside the emitter. In the emitter, we want to show objects I want way less. Still want way less. Okay, it's firing them off. I might want to drop them down a little bit more. What if I jack up speed? Let's really fire them off. It's fun. Alright, so trying to figure this one out because it fired 4 of them off, right? Oh, it stops at 150. Interesting. Alright, that's cool. I'm gonna rotate you. Now it's just firing them off into anywhere. That look like a building of some sort. Do I want it even taller? Sure. So let's apply a rigid body to you and turn dynamics off. Oh, I know why. I think I want that to be a collider body. Oh no, I don't have rigid dynamics on here. That's fun. Okay, so let's see if I go to Voronoi fracture and I put you up in here. Do I need to make this a collision object though? Let's see. What if I take that off and I put collider body? How would I make that thing start to crumble? Increase the mass of the spheres? Why do I feel like even by increasing the mass of these spheres here, they are... Like, don't you think they would fall a lot faster to the floor? Alright, here's my goal today. My goal is to try to get these things to fire into this object and to have this thing start to crumble. And I don't know how to do that. And I wonder if... because that dynamic is off. That was fun. Okay. Cool. Alright, we're getting closer. Now the mass of those things is so huge, I feel like it is just blasting through these things. So let's go back to mass here and change you back down to like, what was it, started at 10? What if we did 5? There you go, it's a little better. Okay, I'm still running into an issue. Let's see, if I put rigid body tag on here and said it's off. Oh! Dude, that totally exploded and was amazing. Alright, so how do you get... Oh, I know how. I know exactly what I have to do. I have to put a floor in. It's still falling through a floor. Huh. Really interesting. Alright, now we have to figure out why that thing is falling through the floor. Alright, I will be back here in a little while. Hey, look at my hat. I'm all crooked like. Alright, I'll see you back in a little bit. We're going to figure this out.